Alright, here we are. Gentlemen collectors and enthusiasts of all things pre-1997 and particularly in the field of mountain biking. This is build number 2, it's done. So I thought I'd take you around it, show you what I've done, show you what I've been up to. There's only 5 of you ever going to see this. I'm going to do it in one take. Not all this fancy scripting and over editing like a certain Dr Frankenbike. This is going to come raw and at you as you might expect. So where did it start? I bought a bike, bought the pace bike. So the frame, in fact actually the only part of the frame which is recognisable for non-pace enthusiasts was this sticker. This sticker, the head tube sticker, quite a minimal amount of stickers, they were made up and added later. Done a fair amount of, not really a fair amount of polishing, some new stainless bottle cage bolts, they were all a bit mismatched. And yeah, it's got some patina, it's got a bit of wear and tear, a few scratches here and there, but generally speaking I haven't had to do anything to the frame, it's quite nice. Forks too, they came with the Ritchie Logic headset, all pretty smooth, all pretty together. These just needed a good clean, which I spent probably a couple of hours getting in amongst all that CNC machining. But they were pretty good, and the elastomers are pretty smooth. I might, because of my certain bulk, maybe could do with maybe a harder set, firmer set of elastomers. Might look into that, but to be honest, they work quite well, which is all good. So those were forks, frame, seat post, already observed as not being particularly period by Ollie, but at the same time fits really well with the frame. It almost looks like a continuous, like it was meant to be. I'm not entirely sure what the original seat post would have been. These were so bespoke and made up at the time that you really just started with a frame and then everything else was hand built to your specification. So the other thing that came on it, which I've kept, is this XT rear mech. This was 1993. Originally it was a 9-speed. I've converted back to 8-speed as it would have been. The front mech was unrecognisable, so that's been a purchase from eBay. These bought from a gentleman in Bracknell, just down the road, so didn't have to go very far for these. Are pretty much brand new, these XT brakes. So everything matches XT. You won't be able to see it, but in amongst there's even a period correct and code correct M737 bottom bracket, and even this is a, I don't know if I can see the markings on it anywhere, but even this is the correct period correct 8-speed XT737 rear cassette. So no stone has been left unturned, no detail overlooked. But actually the sad thing about this is once I built it up, actually I think it's these two chain rings are particularly worn, and the new chain jumps on those. So I've actually managed to find and track down a brand new, new old stock 737 XT cassette. Has to come from the US though, so the postage is pretty pricey, but I think that'd be worth having. The only other thing as well, I mean, this was a really unloved machine, I have to say, once I started to take it apart from the guy that had it and didn't really use it. He knew what it was, but not really an enthusiast. This cage is not, this actual cage is not the cage I believe that came with the rear mech. The cage that comes with the rear mech has SIS 8-speed integrated, usually written down here. And as such, I think this actually doesn't fit right, and it's quite bent when I try and do the indexing. The indexing isn't bad, but I think, so I'm looking into getting a new replacement for this, period correct, with the right cage on it. Obviously it's had a bash or a knock at some point. So that was pretty much it original wise. Everything else then started to change. So where should we start? Let's start with the wheels. I kind of got a bit done with the wheels, to be honest. Came with the Ringle or Ringley hub. Of course, in period, this would have been blue or purple. My younger self would have insisted on not having something as classy as a silver hub, but I felt actually that it really matched the entire kind of look of the build. 231 CD Mavic rims, an absolute must. Always had these. I think my brother's bike still has these, the original set. They never seem to wear out. The walls always seem to stay true. The only problem with this set is that the rear one, as I think I told somebody before, the dish was all out. That was easy to fix. It probably needs some new bearings in this XTR hub, which is pretty sweet, but it's also got a really bad flat spot on it. I think the guy kind of probably knew that Was maybe why he was getting rid of them. He said they were for a build he didn't want to do, but anyway, ended up paying probably a little bit over the odds, but they are a pretty sweet set of rims. We'll find out when we get out on the trails just how good they are and how sturdy they are, but they seem pretty. Other than that, slight flat spot on the rear rim. They seem pretty good. Seem pretty sweet. Tyres, I think I already shared this with you. Kind of spent a lot of time tracking down these. The front one is a 1.9, pretty absolutely easy to find. I've then got a 2.1, which is actually a bit much, I think, on these types of bikes. And then this 1.7 came up sized, which was, and following the Panaracer kind of setup I used to have back in the day, which was usually a smoke light 1.9 on the front and a 2.1 smoke on the 1.9 light on the back, and then a 2.1 something slightly fatter for a bit of better grip and also a bit of better absorption in the corner, grip in the corners and absorption. I've followed that, so 1.7 at the back, 1.9 at the front. See how that fares. Much more like a sort of gravel bike, I guess, width, which for what I'm going to do on the bike is probably going to be okay. What else? So flight saddle, again, it had a real dog of a wilderness trail saddle on it. Track this down, not as rare as you'd expect. I always seem to, whenever I go to eBay, I always seem to see 3 or 4 options. So this is the Transalp option with this Celitalia on the back in red, which is kind of neat, in good condition. This one's from Poland, I think that one came from. And then up front in the control, obviously matching shifters and brakes. These seem pretty sweet. Thanks Ollie for the tip on flushing it out. It was the front derailleur wasn't quite picking up, but managed to do that. They click really sweetly and really nice, actually, integrated set. And of course finish off the entire group set perfectly. Not XTR, and I know that XTR was available, but I think in my younger self XT was still a dream. XT was still, I'd come from a world of LX, or lived in a world of LX and DX if I was lucky. So XT for me was still probably up there with the creme de la creme, and XTR was almost slightly unnecessary. And it was massive cost, and all of a sudden what had been the top of the range now seemed pretty approachable. So I'm kind of happy with that. Glad that it all matches. Synchro stem, I was a huge Synchro fan. I think I had a black Synchro stem at some point. Managed to just trip over this. New old stock almost. I don't think it's quite new, but it is pretty close. 1 inch as well. A lot of these are 1 1/8 when you see them for sale. So an inch steerer, a headset system, fits just straight on. Perfect angle, perfect geometry. Love the 130 length. Perfect, without being too extreme, and stacked up with a few spaces, and it's all right for my old back. What else? Actually setting up these brakes was actually pretty easy. I always thought they were much harder, but generally speaking, these lock on really well. Got a really nice feel to them. And Middleburn cranks, I think a British bike. We've talked about, it's a British, actually North Yorkshire made frame, and obviously pace forks. You wouldn't have anything else on a pace. But then to go, so you could have Cook Brothers, you could have Syncross, but I think Middleburn RS7 cranks are probably the right way to go. These have got Middleburn chainrings. Arguably on a pace, I would like to have some pace chainrings, but haven't been able to track any down with the 94 mils spider pattern. I mean, I've got some on my orange, which are 110s, but just wouldn't retrofit on that. So that's slightly disappointing. Some new cabling. Tried to make sure that I got the writing, some nice details there. Got all the writing on the outer cables on display to show it's proper Shimano stuff. Also some of the decals, some of this stuff on here, it's in lovely condition, which is always appreciated. On the 2.1s, they were pretty rough and actually sort of come off it, and so again, it's just another example of probably better for if it's ever displayed, or if people ever see it. Once it starts to get ridden, that's all gonna come off. But I think that's it. It rides pretty sweet. Got to get that indexing sorted. New rear clusters coming from the US. But yeah, this is the absolute dream. This was crazy. These things were 1,600 quid back in the day. And that was before you started speccing on all your custom stuff. And so, I mean, that was like light years away from what anything I could scrape together as a student, or you know, doing a bit of bar work here and there. Oh, I should mention the grips. So I wasn't going to go for these Onza lock-ons. I found them and they're okay and everything, but I'm not too sure on the colour. I suppose they're quite gentleman's club. Got a certain air of prestige about them, but I was going to go for the OD Attacks, but the pair I've got, when I try and put them on with the hairspray, they don't seem to stick. They almost seem that they're slightly too big for the bar. And I wonder if it's because this tapered bar tapers a bit more aggressively than normal. Obviously, again, pace rental bar. I forgot to mention that. That's an absolute must on a pace machine. But yeah, so the grips. I might have to look for some. I might just buy another set and see if there's maybe they're a dodgy set, the set I've got. But I expected them just to slip on. Black OD Attacks. But anyway, they're on because they're a bolt on. And so they're nice and tight and what's the pound, but actually they look pretty good with the gold and everything else. So there you go, chaps. It's been quite a long haul, but yeah, can't imagine what I'm going to do next, but hopefully you appreciate the what you see in front of you. All right, see you soon.